In a bustling city in Korea, a towering building is engulfed in flames. Amid the chaos, firefighter Kim bravely leaps from a high floor, cradling a small child in his arms. They're suspended in midair by a rope, but only for a moment. The fire sears through it, sending them plummeting. Luckily, an air mattress is already in place below. They bounce upon impact, but as they land on the street, Kim shields the child with his own body, taking the brunt of the fall. He strikes his head hard, and flashes of his life rush through his mind. The child quickly runs to her parents, and Kim follows to ask a few routine follow-up questions. Strangely, the family doesn't acknowledge him. Confused, Kim hears his name being called. He turns around to find two unfamiliar figures, Lee and Hae, standing nearby. They introduce themselves as guardians of the afterlife. Before he can process what's happening, Kim sees his fellow firefighters mourning over his lifeless body. Lee gently explains the truth. Kim has passed away. Now, as a rare paragon, he must undergo 7 trials across 49 days in the afterlife. Kim is overwhelmed and refuses to accept his death. His thoughts are with his mother, who cannot hear or speak. But before he can do anything more, a glowing portal opens and draws his soul into the next world. Meanwhile, back at his funeral, the third guardian, Gang Rim, arrives. Kim's mother remains frozen in front of his portrait, lost in grief. Kim's younger brother, Soo Hong, gently tries to lead her away before the casket is moved, but she doesn't respond. At the gates of the afterlife, Hae introduces Kim to a towering statue of Yomra, the great king and final judge of souls. Gang Rim soon joins them and reveals that he's the leader of their team. Over the past century, he has guided 47 souls to successful reincarnation. Despite Kim's insistence that he doesn't deserve the title, Gang Rim declares him a paragon, a truly rare status. Lee proceeds to insert Kim's death ticket into a portal device. The result confirms it. Kim is officially an honorable paragon, a distinction not granted in nearly 2 decades. His noble sacrifice while saving another life has earned him this recognition and a strong chance at reincarnation. Now, the journey begins. To reach reincarnation, Kim must pass through 7 levels of judgment, each representing a different sin. The order of the levels is unique for every soul, determined by Yomra based on the weight of their wrongdoings in life. As the group crosses a narrow bridge into the afterlife, a foreboding sight halts Hae in his tracks. In the distance, he recognizes a terrifying landmark, the volcano of Murder Hell. The trial now shifts focus to the lives lost because of the judged soul's actions, even those lost indirectly. As the session begins, Lee dives into Kim's past and uncovers a tragic incident during a fire where Kim failed to save a fellow firefighter. Suddenly, the ground splits beneath them, and Kim finds himself stranded on a narrow pillar above a sea of lava. From below, struggling souls begin to climb toward him. Kim instinctively tries to help them, but in a moment of hesitation, spurred by the fierce shout of the god presiding over the murder hell, he loses his grip and the souls fall. The prosecutors present their case. Kim left a colleague behind during the fire. They argue that if he had acted more decisively and hadn't prioritized his own safety, he might have saved him before the building went up in flames. Typically, this kind of indirect cause of death would carry a sentence of 50 years in the afterlife. However, since Kim is a paragon soul, the penalty could be reduced to 5. At this critical moment, Gang Rim steps forward in Kim's defense. He asks Kim to recall his co-worker's final words. Kim remembers the man urging him to help the injured civilians first, believing that doing so would help contain the fire. Gang Rim highlights that Kim saved 8 people that day, something only possible because he followed his friend's advice. He even appeared on the news for his heroic act. Moved by the truth, the god of Murder Hell deems Kim not guilty. With that, the group proceeds by boat toward the next realm, Indolence Hell, where Kim must prove he lived his life with purpose. As they journey forward, Kim reveals he has no desire to be reincarnated and wonders why these trials are conducted. Lee explains that if they can help 49 souls earn rebirth within a century, they themselves earn that right too. Most souls don't make it through all the trials, so guiding a paragon like Kim is a rare stroke of fortune. He might be their 48th. Suddenly, terrifying aquatic creatures leap from the river, aiming to drag them under. Hae reacts instantly, slashing them back with his blades. He explains that these entities prey on new souls and detect them by looking into their eyes. As they near their destination, Gangrim warns Kim not to argue with the goddess of indolence. Their next trial takes place at the base of a towering waterfall. Lee delivers a heartfelt speech, vouching for Kim's tireless efforts throughout his life. Images are projected on the waterfall, depicting Kim's acts of bravery, removing a beehive, saving animals during a flood, and rescuing a cat from a building ledge, injuring himself in the process. Impressed, the goddess asks what motivated him to help others. Unfortunately, Kim responds with blunt honesty: money. The mood immediately shifts. Disappointed, the goddess activates a mechanism, threatening to send Kim plummeting to the deadly river below, where souls are devoured or crushed by stone columns. Without hesitation, Hai and Gangrim dive in to hold the platform steady. Gangrim then shares more of Kim's backstory, how extreme poverty forced him to work multiple part-time jobs. He never once took a proper day off, as he was the sole provider for his ailing mother and his younger brother, who was studying law. Hearing this, the goddess realizes Kim's motivations weren't selfish, but rooted in love and sacrifice. She reverses her verdict and clears him of guilt. Next, they venture through the Blade Forest on their way to Deceit Hell. Here, even the leaves can cut like knives, and they must be careful not to touch anything. Unexpectedly, Gangrim shoves Kim into a bladed tree. The branches ensnare and injure him. While Kim cries out in pain, Gangrim sternly reminds him of the importance of obeying instructions, especially the one about staying silent before the goddess. Hai steps in, cutting him free and urging Kim to take the journey more seriously. He also reveals that if everything goes well, Kim may get one final chance to visit a loved one in a dream before reincarnation. This possibility reignites Kim's determination, especially the thought of seeing his mother again. Being a paragon, Kim earns a special route through the forest, a fast-moving boat, but the Guardians sense danger looming. Vengeful spirits appear among the trees. They ask Kim if any close family members might have died, with a heavy heart. As the ghouls draw near, Hai and Gangrim leap into action. The team realizes one of these tormented spirits may be someone from Kim's family. During the battle, Gangrim slices through one ghoul, its head landing on the boat. Another monster boards the vessel, and Gangrim is thrown overboard, barely holding onto the edge. Hai fights furiously, buying time for Gangrim to climb back aboard. In a final strike, Hai throws a blade that dislodges rocks, causing an avalanche that blocks the river behind them. Most of the ghouls are crushed or trapped. To Gangrim's surprise, Suhong's mother can actually see him, an indication that she's nearing death herself. Thinking quickly, he uses sign language and pretends to be a civilian rescued by Kim, there only to pay respects. She embraces him and he asks for a private moment to say goodbye. Once alone, Gangrim uses his sword to summon the rogue soul, Suhong. He chases him through the neighborhood, observing a trail of frost wherever the spirit goes. Physical attacks are ineffective, and the ghoul escapes once more. In the afterlife, Kim removes his blindfold, inadvertently drawing in more dark spirits, but they're swiftly eliminated by two massive guardians, followed by the arrival of King Yomra himself, demanding answers. Hai assures him that Gangrim is already pursuing the entity and intends to bring peace. Based on what they've seen, the Guardians conclude that either Kim's brother or mother passed away harboring strong resentment. Upon reaching the shore, Kim is blindfolded. Gangrim announces he must take a detour and instructs the others to stall the next trial if necessary. Using his powers, Gangrim travels to the world of the living. He appears inside a government building and reads its lingering memories. He witnesses a scene of Kim's brother, Suhong, and their mother receiving a box of Kim's belongings. The mother clutches an old potted plant, but Suhong urges her to throw it away, calling it useless. She refuses. Gangrim then teleports to the family's apartment and touches the plant to learn its memories. There, he uncovers Suhong's bitterness. He believes Kim abandoned their mother, and the pain left behind may have taken root as a grudge. Still believing his mother has died, Kim pleads with the king to protect her. Hai pulls him back while Lee offers apologies. The king warns that if Gangrim fails, he'll step in directly. Meanwhile, Gangrim visits an army base, overhearing rumors of Suhong's disappearance, oddly discussed as if he were still alive. Flashbacks reveal Suhong as a loyal friend and capable soldier. Disguised as a senior officer, Gangrim questions Lieutenant Park, who denies any knowledge. Back in the afterlife, Kim faces the trial of deceit. Memories reveal he sent 98 letters to the daughter of a man he couldn't save, writing as if her father were still alive to shield her from grief. Unfortunately, the truth came out, deepening her sorrow. The deity of this realm binds Kim, threatening to silence him. Desperate, Hai reaches out to Gangrim telepathically. Gangrim then communicates through Lee, explaining how Kim also sent fictional letters to his mother, describing a joyful life he never lived. He did it to keep her spirits high through her illness, and it worked. The girl, too, found strength in those letters. Recognizing Kim as a paragon, someone of remarkable virtue, the goddess deems the trial unnecessary. The group moves on. Kim admits he only wanted to return home to give his mother a surprise rice cooker, knowing how often she burned meals due to her failing memory. Unbeknownst to her, he'd hidden a heartfelt letter inside it. Just then, Gangrim arrives to inform Kim that both his mother and brother are alive. After Kim departs, Gangrim privately confides in his team and sets off to uncover the truth. At another military site, Gangrim witnesses a pivotal memory. Su-hong is mistakenly shot by a rookie soldier named Wan. Before succumbing, Su-hong pleads for secrecy. Lieutenant Park arrives too late and decides to cover up the incident. The memory triggers Gangrim's own past, watching his father fall in battle. Returning to the village, he sees the soldiers lie to Su-hong's mother, saying her son is missing, evoking painful memories of his own family's loss. In the afterlife, the team now ventures through the freezing terrain of Injustice Hell. Kim's lifetime of selflessness earns him a pass, but the ghoul's residual energy destabilizes the landscape. Ice begins collapsing, forcing them into a precarious escape via a cable car. During the ride, Lee tells Kim that guardians forget their past lives unless they hold high ranks, like Gangrim. Their conversation slips into deeper truths, and Hai accidentally reveals Su-hong's fate. Back on Earth, Gangrim begins recovering Su-hong's body, triggering another tremor in the afterlife. Kim rescues his guardians mid-fall, declaring he now wants to be reborn, to reunite with his mother. Hai confronts Gangrim, accusing him of violating sacred rules by interfering in the mortal realm. But Gangrim insists the family deserves closure. They clash briefly, but Gangrim fends off Hai with ease. Elsewhere, Park warns Wan to stay silent, but guilt overwhelms him. Gangrim later spots the ghoul haunting them at a club, then pursues it through a portal. In a dramatic mid-air confrontation, Gangrim captures the soul with his blade. The ghoul, however, shares a shocking truth. It's not vengeance that drives him, but the trauma of being buried alive. Gangrim recalls a similar fate that befell his father. As Su-hong disrupts the city's power, Wan tries to confess. Park refuses, but Su-hong, watching everything, flares with rage. In the afterlife, the team continues toward betrayal hell. This domain punishes traitors, but Kim's acts are deemed noble. He passes unscathed. Gangrim returns, explaining that Su-hong had forgotten Kim due to years of emotional distance. While Kim begs for his brother's soul to be spared, Wan secretly delivers a map to Kim's mother, revealing where her son's body lies. They proceed to violence hell. Kim's record suggests a shallow descent, but as he's dropped in, memories emerge. As a teen, he once assaulted his starving brother. After this, he ran away for good. As judgment looms, Lee requests a merged trial, a high-stakes risk that could strip the Guardians of their powers. The request is granted, and they begin crossing the eternal desert en route to the final judgment. Gangrim eventually destroys Su-hong's body, breaking the ghoul's curse. The soul must now return home 3 times to complete the journey. Along the desert path, Su-hong reveals a chilling truth. Their family was once on the brink, and Kim nearly took drastic measures to end their suffering. He couldn't go through with it, so he fled and worked endlessly to support them from afar. At the army base, Kim's mother arrives carrying a sign begging for help. Park tries to silence her, but she reveals the map. Meanwhile, monsters appear in the afterlife. Hai fends them off while Kim sinks into quicksand. Fueled by grief and rage, Su-hong erupts into a monstrous storm, unleashing chaos on the base. Gangrim saves all the soldiers but Park. When Park tries to flee, Su-hong captures him. In desperation, Gangrim summons Hai, who dives into the storm to rescue Park. At the same time, Kim nearly vanishes in the desert. Lee's cries reach Su-hong, who pauses long enough for Gangrim to strike, restoring him to a peaceful soul. The death god, revealed to be Yomra, declares Kim guilty of attempted harm against his mother. But then, Su-hong appears in her dream, dressed in celestial robes. He tells her he now serves in heaven and pleads for forgiveness for Kim. She responds tearfully, blaming herself instead and embracing her son. Witnessing this, Kim breaks down. Yomra announces that sins forgiven in the living world cannot be judged in the afterlife. Kim is granted reincarnation. Bathed in light, he thanks Lee before fading. Gangrim later asks Hai to guide Su-hong, who has now earned the status of Paragon. In a final twist, Gangrim realizes that the version of Hai who challenged him earlier was actually King Yomra in disguise. Later at the hospital, Gangrim leaves a package for Kim's mother. Inside is the rice cooker and Kim's final letter revealing everything. She embraces it with love. Nearby, a withering plant begins to bloom again. In the afterlife, Gangrim tells his team that Su-hong will be their 49th reincarnation. Then, together with Hai, he prepares to confront the guards for one last audience with the king.